Hello, this is the local artistry show. I'm Evan. I'm here with Ryan Yingst. Thank you for joining me. I think the first thing is why don't you tell us what you do?
Sure, sure. Yeah, well, ever since graduating college back in like 2017, it's been just kind of a blur of like trying to make, what does it mean to make a way in the music industry? I've always come down kind of on the artistry side of it. And so I guess technically my jobs kind of line up as the way I describe it is a songwriter, an artist, an engineer, and a producer. I feel like every artist has to wear multiple hats in the way the industry exists today. I always really respected the guys who kind of could work on, as I called it, like both sides of the glass. Some of the kind of guys that could be great players in the studio, could be great musicians and stuff, but also had the technical know-how to go in and look at the engineering side of things and say, this stuff can be changed, this stuff can be altered. Even if they weren't necessarily engineers, they had that ear for it. So that's kind of the road I tried to go down with engineering, doing live audio, doing recorded audio, in addition to then writing my own stuff and taking that out and forming bands and playing and stuff like that.
You were touring with a country band, I think, for a couple years, and after that, you started touring solo and taking songwriting more seriously. In what way did you take it more seriously? Like, what did that mean for you as
Sure.
an artist?
Yeah. Well, taking it seriously to me is the messy side of things. The fun side is with no stress and no expectation, you try to write a song. Whatever process that may be for different people. Some people that's just to open a file on a computer and to start crafting like a beat or electronic thing. For some people, that's to sit down with a guitar and just write. In Nashville, that's it's pretty popular practice. But writing with like nothing attached. Not expecting release schedules, marketing, publishing, distribution, the whole business side of it. Just putting that aside and just writing without those expectations. I think that's something you really only get to do before your first album. Because after you drop your freshman album, your first release, you have to do something with it. You have to if you want to turn it into a career or something like that. So I started taking it seriously because I started compiling the songs I'd written and saying rejecting this one, taking this part of this one, rejecting this one, and crafting an album out of it, and then trying to say, okay, what does this look like as a live show? Who's my live band? How do I book enough tour or enough shows and tours and stuff to keep me busy enough to make a living doing this? Trying to figure out my way forward that way. So really, I would just say it's the messiness of it. When I say take something seriously in music, it's that transition from, it has to be a passion, it has to be something you really enjoy and you love and you have fun with, but then taking it out of the realm of just having fun with it. And that's when I started talking to my publisher in New York, a guy by the name of David Milkus, who does my publishing for me with his company Frida, and started talking about release schedules, starting talking about marketing aspects, starting talking about all kind of like the business stuff that goes along with it, the not fun side of being a music maker.
Do you feel that taking it seriously like restricts creativity, or does it act more as a guide for you?
I think I, it can be both depending on the kind of person you are. There's a lot of guys I know that get so turned off by that side of things that they just go and they say, like, look, I'm a good enough player. I'm just going to go tour. I'm just going to go do this. I'm going to stay away from that side of it. I just want somebody to, pay me my wages out and I can stay focused on playing music and just enjoying it. But, if you want your songs, something from your heart to get out there to people, it takes more than just writing a good song. And it's unfortunate that that's like not really portrayed and talked about as much, but like I do think that like just writing a good song a lot of times isn't enough to be taken seriously as an artist. There's restrictions on creativity with that, but there's a lot of things I've gotten, especially from the people you meet doing that kind of thing, the folks that I've met doing different writes. You enter into a new world of people who all want to take it seriously, and because of that, writing a heartfelt song, writing something that you believe in, instead of taking weeks and weeks might, turn into something you can do in an afternoon. And having that ability to like advance and grow in your songwriting and to really invest in yourself as a songwriter is something I take very seriously. And it didn't restrict any creativity for me. It really helped me open. It really helped me to acknowledge this is what I want to do. This is what I'm doing. I'll put the effort in. And ever since then, I think I've been more creative than I was before.
I was interested in the Meditations on Empty Streets extended play because it's very different from Bar Rings, which I think is your first LP. So from what I understand, Meditations was like, I guess, a manifestation of feelings you felt during the pandemic. I want to know what made you take a different direction with that one.
Sure. Well, a large part of it was necessity, because I think what drove a lot of people more than anything during 2020 and during the pandemic and throughout the time period we've all been going through, was necessity. I was at the time, I was like delivering DoorDash and stuff like that too as well, and so like, it was interesting to see who the essential workers were, who was out there during the time, who was like trying to get what people needed to do to get farther. And so that was something that drove me, that I was like, I have to release something during this time, or I have to do something during this time, because my first gig started getting canceled in late February of 2020, and I started seeing how serious things were getting, and how dramatic the whole time period was. And it said to me, like, there's a lot of necessity guiding what people are doing right now, even people just staying home, because I know some people loved it, obviously. I mean, I enjoyed getting a little extra time to sit at home with my girlfriend. It was fun, but I know a lot of people had horrible experiences during that time, and the only thing keeping them going is necessity. So I kind of wanted to play off of that a bit, and then also just kind of catalog the experience that I had. And that's what I tried to do with Meditations. It was starting off just with the first track is called Suspicion, and that's what it's about, just the uneasiness, the confusion, and seeing how that progressed through just these different stages of how I felt people were reacting, and what I was watching unfold, largely through social media and the news and things like that, how everybody else was staying connected and everything. And within that, it pushed and pulled a lot of my own feelings, my own struggles with the pandemic. So yeah, it was a catalog, but to make it so different was mainly just because to get it done, I had to do that. The one song called "I Trust You" is made up of the drums, and the backing is all just found objects I had around the house, and I would take mugs and glasses and boxes I'd fill with quarters and make odd shakers. And I experimented where I was what does quarters sound like versus dimes versus pennies, and all these different things, where I just picked these things apart to make a drum backing. Then I would play the guitar and bass and the keyboards and stuff like that. But then I would take my hardware synthesizers, and I'd be what tones can I get out of this, what pads can I lay over the whole thing. One song, "For Your Love," was entirely made starting off with just a pedal tone. So I hit two keys on the synthesizer, and I let those run through the entirety of the piece, and then went back over it and tried to fill out using that as a starting block. So it was just kind of experimenting within my songwriting as well. And I'd always done electronic music, but Bar Rings clearly wasn't that. So I wanted to have a space for my electronic stuff as well.
Are there any ideas or concepts musically that you're you're thinking of exploring?
Sure. There's a lot of stuff that especially being down here in Nashville, I did a double single. I guess not as I've been saying recently, but it's not as recent anymore. It's about a year old at this point. But I did a double single where I went back to Pittsburgh to the recording studio I worked at after college, and sat down and I did a live recording, tracked it straight through with a cello player friend of mine named Eli Layson. And he's out in San Francisco now. But we came back and we tracked it just straight as is. Put up a divider between us, a couple mics up, and there was no edits, there was no multi takes, there was none of that kind of stuff. It was just, let's see what we can get out of these songs I've written. and he really came through for that. So exploring live recording is something I want to do more and more. I would love to set up for a full show for live recording, but it takes the right venue and the right production company and a bunch of other stuff too. So that's something I'm looking forward to hopefully exploring. And that genre too is outside of my usual. That was done in kind of an Americana style, which is something I've been getting more and more into as I've been in Nashville, just because I've never been a big country guy, but there's something about the folk side of it and the Americana side of it rather than the country that like really speaks to me, and I think is a very real storytelling type of thing, very honest storytelling. I also am just always interested in working with new people who expand my horizons. Finding somebody who just plays bass differently, or finding somebody who, I run into pedal steel guitar players down here from time to time, and it's a tonality I'm not as used to working with, and I love to jam with those guys, or harmonica players or something. It's just something outside my wheelhouse, something that gets me thinking differently.
Before you get to playing, I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about any upcoming projects or events.
Sure. Well, I'm always playing down here. I've got a show tonight. I'm playing over with my friends at Nashville Tour Stop. They're a local promoter booker down here that does all different kinds of events and some really cool stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. Some bigger shows I'm looking forward to. I'm playing out with my band at a couple events at Black Rabbit, one of the local bars down here and stuff like that. In terms of projects, I have been recording a single for a while now, and I'm really looking forward to getting that released. It's actually based on a poem that my girlfriend wrote a while back, and I stole from her because I thought it was so good that I used it for the lyrics for a song coming out. So that song's going to be called Incessant, and I don't have a release date for that yet, but I'm looking forward to that. And then several other projects I'm not even going to get into now, but I do have EPs and a couple other things like that are in the works with different artists and different bands. So looking forward to a busy year. I do have a song to play for you all today. This is one that I have been really enjoying getting to play live down here a ton, and getting to turn more into a solo song, because I'd always played it as a band before. But it's a song called Don't Go. It's off of my album Bar Rings, and I was really grateful to have Joe Semin come out and play saxophone on it for the album, and he does some really killing stuff. And I really enjoy it because every time I play it with a band, it takes on a little bit different of a vibe. It grows and it adapts, and it's grown over a long period of time. So this is my song, Don't Go. First met that girl, her eyes ran through me and made me numb. She was no good for me, but I could not get enough. She burned in my veins and she drove me insane. It was some kind of love that I can't explain, and I make excuses for all of my uses. And I first started using when I felt too useless. Last thing I heard as I fell off to bed, began to lift off, and that's right when she said, don't go for learning love. Don't go for learning love. Oh no, don't go for learning love. Oh, so easily. Bright red lights did flash, well, my whole world it turns to ash. And cuff marks go away, but tracks on arms are here to stay. And when I felt like breaking down, and I needed you the most around, you left me by myself and went and loved somebody else. And I said, don't go for an apart. Don't go for an apart. No, no, please don't go perfect place I could go. You just need my herb, six-string guitar, and we go here for the road. Stay out nights as we watch the lights of every city crash and burn. And at the end of the world, you're the only one I'd have by my side. You know the place, even though I always wanted to drive. And I would sing you songs as you'd sing along, even when your words were always wrong. Oh, but every time I think about that rhyme, about the fantasy world I create in my mind, well, it seems like always my time and my space, I don't quite have enough. But please let me say, don't go away, stay on my time. Oh no, no, please don't go away, stay on